Maybe you're even thinking about breaking out your N64 and giving it a play after listening to this episode. But before we get into that, I think it's really interesting. This game came out in 1999.
Yeah.
Which, like a lot of N64 games, we're thinking kind of like arcadey racers.
Yeah, very much so. Like Cruisin' USA, San Francisco Rush.
Yeah.
All those like over-the-top arcade-style games.
Yeah, exactly. So this one's interesting because it kind of went for a different approach.
Yeah, it went for that more sim-heavy experience.
Yes, sim-heavy.
Which, I mean, if you think about it, at the time,
a
lot of people saw the PlayStation as having the serious racing games.
Right.
Gran Turismo was the big one at the time.
Yeah.
And then N64 was known more for the fun.
Yeah.
But kind of unrealistic arcade racers.
Yeah.
So for World Driver Championship to go for that more sim-focused approach.
Interesting.
On the N64 is very interesting.
And you know what else is interesting?
What's that?
The developer, Boss Game Studios.
Right.
And the publisher, Midway. We're known for their arcade roots too.
Yeah. I mean, Midway, especially you think of like Mortal Kombat, NBA Jam, very much in that arcade headspace. Yeah. So for them to be putting out a more sim-focused racer,
right?
It is kind of like a departure for them. Yeah.
It is. So did they pull it off? Because one of the things I've heard is that the graphics were really good for an N64 game.
Yeah, they were surprisingly good. I mean, we're talking detailed car models, tracks based on real-world locations. So, you'd be racing through, like, the streets of Rome, or you can actually make out, like, the Colosseum and things like that. Or you'd be racing in Sydney, and you could see the Opera House. Like, these were recognizable landmarks.
That's cool.
And they even had, like, realistic lighting effects. Like, they had, that lens flare.
Oh, wow.
During sunsets and things like that. So they were really pushing...
How did
the N64.
How did they do that?
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So they did a few things. I mean, one of the things was they used custom microcode.
Okay.
And that's basically like, think of it as like a secret code.
Okay.
That makes the N64's hardware run faster and more efficiently. So they were kind of like hacking the N64 in a way.
Wow.
To make it do things that it wasn't really designed to do.
That's impressive.
And then they also had like a hires letterbox mode.
Oh, cool.
If you wanted like even crisper visuals. So they really were pushing the limits.
So they were going all out. It wasn't just about graphics, though.
No.
So they had this whole championship mode.
Yeah.
Which went beyond just like, picking a car and racing.
Right. So you weren't just jumping straight into races. You were actually starting as a rookie driver.
Okay.
And you had to work your way up the ranks.
Interesting.
You'd start with a kind of crappy car.
Yeah.
And as you progressed, you'd get to sign with different teams.
Oh, that's cool.
Unlock better cars. And eventually climb to the top of the racing wall.
Wait, signing with different teams? That's cool. I don't think I've seen that in a racing game before.
No, it was pretty unique. And that's kind of where the RPG elements come in.
Oh, okay.
Because each team had its own, like, personality and cars that you could unlock. And they were even, like, team owners.
Oh, wow.
That you had to, like, deal with.
Oh, interesting.
So, like, one of the team owners was this guy named Reginald.
Reginald, okay.
And he was known for giving, like, these really harsh post-race scoldings.
Oh, so if you did bad.
Yeah, if you messed up,
like, oh, no.
Reginald would let you know about it.
I can just imagine people getting nervous.
Oh, yeah?
Before talking to Reginald after a bad race.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please don't yell at me, Reginald.
Exactly.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, that whole, like, team management aspect really add a lot of depth to the game.
It sounds like a totally different approach to a racing game.
Yeah, it's almost like a
racing RPG.
Yeah, a racing RPG. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And the depth doesn't stop there. Get this. To reach the top rank in championship mode.
Okay.
We're looking at over 50 hours of playtime.
Wow.
So this was not your typical...
So the commitment.
Yeah, this is serious time commitment. This is not like your pick up and play arcade racer.
Right. Wow. So how did the actual driving feel?
Well,
did it live up to that sim hype?
Let's just say they didn't make it easy for you.
Okay.
The early cars are deliberately
hard to control.
Tough to handle.
Okay.
It was their way of simulating a more realistic driving experience.
Okay.
So you had to really learn how to control those cars.
Oh, wow.
And one of the key skills you had to master was power sliding.
Power sliding.
To those who might not know, power sliding is basically where you intentionally oversteer and cause the car to kind of slide sideways while maintaining control. It takes perfect timing.
Yeah.
And you often have to like downshift at the right moment to get it right. But it's essential for like taking those tight corners.
Oh, I see.
And shaving off precious seconds.
So you can't just like brake and turn.
No.
You got to like really know what you're doing.
Yeah, you got to master that technique.
Wow.
And it's interesting because you compare that to modern racing games.
Yeah.
They often have all these like driving assists that make things easier. But in World Driver Championship, you're on your own.
Wow.
You got to earn those victories through pure skill.
That's hardcore.
Yeah, it is.
And it makes me think of one of the reviews I read. Yeah. It described the early cars as handling like a trash can sliding down a driveway.
I could definitely see that. Especially those early cars.
Yeah, there were some frustrating moments, I'm guessing.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But I think that challenge is part of the game's appeal.
Right.
It makes you work for those victories.
I see.
And when you finally like master those controls and you unlock those top tier cars, it's all the more satisfying.
I see.
Because you've earned it.
You put in the time.
You put in the time.
That's cool.
I did notice something that it didn't have.
Yeah.
There's no car customization.
Right.
Which is so standard in modern racing games.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's interesting that they didn't include it.
Yeah, and it could be a couple of things. I mean, it could have been, you know, a technical limitation at the time.
Yeah, maybe.
Or it could have been a deliberate design choice.
Okay.
You know, they may have wanted to really emphasize
that team-based progression. Like you earn those better cars.
I see.
Through skill and dedication.
Through the ranks.
Not through
the menu.
Yeah, not through a customization menu.
Right.
You know, you got to work your way up racing world, prove yourself worthy of those top-tier vehicles.
That is interesting. Okay, so enough about the cars.
Yeah.
What about the soundtrack? Was it like full of like adrenaline pumping?
It was very much a product of its time.
Okay.
So think like 90s rock music.
Oh, okay.
Which, you know, not bad.
Yeah.
But it could get a little repetitive after a while.
Okay.
But they did have the option to play with sound effects only.
Okay.
Which was, you know.
Very 90s.
Yeah, very 90s. A lot of racing games back then had that option.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Like, put in your favorite CD.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just cruise along.
Yeah, just cruise along.
Yeah.
But speaking of those sound effects, what were those like?
Yeah, they were actually surprisingly well done.
Okay.
Especially for an N64 game.
Okay.
You could actually hear like the difference between driving on different surfaces.
Really?
So like asphalt versus gravel.
Wow.
They had distinct sounds for each.
That's cool.
And they even used like positional audio.
Positional audio. Okay.
So like if you were driving past like, I don't know, a windmill, you'd hear that whooshing sound more prominently from that direction.
Wow.
So it's subtle.
That's impressive for N64.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it adds a lot to the immersion.
Yeah.
Makes the world feel more alive.
It makes it feel real.
Yeah. So they really...
I put a lot of effort into that.
They did.
All right. Now for the big one.
The big one. I know people have been waiting for this.
The infamous reversing issue.
Tell me about this.
All right. So...
This is legendary.
Yeah, this has become legendary.
Among the fans.
Yeah, among fans of this game.
So basically there was this glitch.
Yeah.
Your car could sometimes get like glued to walls when you tried to reverse.
No way.
Yeah, it was really weird.
That's hilarious.
It is hilarious.
And I bet it's also frustrating.
Oh yeah, incredibly frustrating.
If you're in a race.
Especially if you're like in a tight spot, trying to maneuver.
And you back up.
Yeah.
And you're stuck.